What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. As you can see, we're in the Spire of the Watcher dungeon, all new into Destiny 2. We're going to give you guys a little guide diving into everything in the encounters. We got 3 of them for this dungeon back on Mars, as well as all 6 of the collectibles for a nice triumph, as well as both of the secret chests. You can get that extra sweet loot, since we are going the yeehaw style cowboy theme with this armor and the weapons. Very good loot pool in my personal opinion. Plus, this dungeon has been dropping some pretty banging armor drops for me, 66s, 67s, 65s, so definitely a good thing to farm because it is farmable besides that exotic weapon. So starting off this dungeon just like Bungie fashion, it introduces us into a new mechanic which opens up new areas of this dungeon forest, which we use throughout the rest of the encounters. Now, this mechanic is very simple and very easy to learn, and once you get it down, you can complete the dungeon with ease. So at this area here, you can see we have 4 nodes in the center, which we use to open up the doors to progress our progress in the dungeon. Now, to do this, there are these yellow lines around the combat area with nodes in between them as well. These nodes use power to charge up those batteries, which then will open up the Mars base. Now, to become charged so we can shoot those nodes and they stay on, we will have to deal with the Vex, specifically those Minotaurs with purple shields. They're majors, they have that little orange bar on them. Now, this drops a buff, a white circle on the ground called Arctrition. Now, this lasts for 30 seconds when you get into that pool, and it will start counting down when you get out. But every time you shoot a node in the right order, it'll give you about 3 to 4 seconds onto your timer, so you can continuously go around shooting these nodes, ending at the final spot. Now, like I said, there's 4 of them inside of this intro spot, and you know which node starts because around that node, there will be arrows telling you which way the power is going to go, so you can travel towards that path and find your second node. So you can see right here that we have this node with the arrows next to it. You shoot it, it'll kind of spark and light up and show you where the next one goes. So you follow that yellow cable to where the next node is, and you shoot it, and you know you have the right order when the cable goes from yellow to that electric blue, kind of sparking with the arc through the power. So you just complete the circuit 4 different times in this center area, leading to that center gate. Once you complete all of those 4 chains by following the yellow wires around and shooting the nodes in between them, when they're done again, they will turn blue, so you know you shot them in the right order, and you get the buff to be able to shoot those via those Minotaurs. They drop the Arctrition. Just make sure you're watching out for the Cyclops around the area, and like I said, just go around, shoot all of those nodes, and when you're done shooting that last one, the center gate opens up, and we actually start the encounters where we will be able to get loot. Unlike this first entrance, it's just getting into the base, but we will start getting the secrets right away right here. So when you drop down initially into this base right here, there is an area where you can jump up to the left, where is our path that we're actually traveling, but right to the right when you go downstairs, down that long tunnel, jump up 2 layers and you see a blue logo on the screen. Those are our secret collectibles. There'll be 6 of them. Grab that, and that is number 1 done. Right before we keep moving on through the dungeon, we have a secret chest and 3 more of those before we even reach the first encounter, with 5 and 6 being right at the first encounter and after that first encounter. So once you collect that first collectible, head up on this path that I'm taking through the underside or the vents of this little base to enter our next area right before we go into this big jumping puzzle where we find a couple more collectibles and a secret chest for our first secret chest. Now, before we go into there, as soon as we hit this arc reactor, this area right here, underneath the platform where it's kind of glowing green underneath, right to the left when you jump down, there is some holes, so be careful. You have to land on those pillars or those tanks down there, and there will be our second collectible, that secret devilish reading that is on those screens with that blue logo. Once you collect that, we can head on to our jumping puzzle, which does get a little hectic, but with 3 of you, not too shabby. There's just a lot of things shooting at you in hobgoblins, harpies, as well as the big hydras, so just some ads to clear, but it's a really easy jumping puzzle in general. So taking this path right here where I'm shooting with my gnawing hunger, we have both our third secret triumph with finding that devilish recording, as well as our first secret chest, which drops us some extra loot. So you make this jumping puzzle on these little platforms that are dangling down on those poles, and then we reach the platforms across the way with all of those computers. Now, when we reach that platform, you'll see right here is our number 3 collectible in that devilish recording on one of those computers with that blue logo again. Make sure you're collecting that. Now, from this panel here, just keep going straight. Don't turn around at all. Go straight and around the end pillar, the corner pillar, which I shot before on the right-hand side when you're looking at it, is our first secret chest. It'll drop you some loot that you've already got, so you might want to wait until you get a couple clears in, so you have an extra little bit of loot pool for those secret chests. Now, from here, the secret chest, super easy little jumping puzzle. We just follow these banisters around that little L shape. Right before we reach a grav cannon, there will be our 4th secret, so you make sure you're staying up on these while dealing with the enemies. There is a little jumping platform on the left side of that second pillar, which you can use to get around very easily to that last catwalk before it makes the turn. And then once we're in this area, you can just defeat your enemies again. Collect this 4th secret collectible recording on the left-hand side before you go up in this gravity well. It'll be over there. It's a little tricky jump sometimes, but it's not too shabby. So once you collect that 4th one, head up in the grav cannon. We have a little more to go before we get to our 5th one and our actual first encounter. So once we work our way up all the way to where our first rally flag can be planted, on the opposite side of that room, right behind it, there is our 5th collectible. So we only have one more after this, which is after the first encounter. Now, that panel is, like I said, right here with the blue screen. Collect it, throw down your rally flag, and you're ready to take on the first encounter, which is super easy. It is just climbing up the spire, using that mechanic from before by defeating the Minotaur, and then shooting the nodes in a certain order to turn on the power for those grav lifts. There will be 3 floors that you have to do, with 2 nodes per floor. So there's 6 different puzzles of shooting the nodes and turning on the power that you have to do total inside the encounter. It is very, very easy. Just got to make sure you watch out for some of the holes in the map, just because there's just platforms as you're climbing. So sometimes you can slip through these little cracks that you're not expecting to be there, or you might over jump. But there will be a decent amount of enemies that spawn, as well as supplicants in this area, so you gotta watch out for those supplicants, as well as the Vex and the Hydras that are floating around the spire. So I brought in something like a sniper or an LMG that reaches out good, like the Xenophage was perfect for taking care of those in 2 to 3 shots, depending on if I was radiant or not. And just like I said, take out the Minotaurs, get your Arctrician buff, go to where the starting panels are. You'll know which ones are the starting panels based on the arrows next to that node. All the other nodes won't have arrows on it, so it's only the starting ones that do. Shoot that, follow the yellow wires around to the next node. Shoot that, you'll know it's working when it turns blue. And once you have both of the nodes on that floor done, the grav cannon opens up and you can head on up to the next floor. Like I said, repeat that for floors 2 and 3. And after you you complete both of the nodes on floor 3, the chest will open up and you get your first set of loot, which is a very easy encounter to do with a fire team or even alone, and you can get some pretty good loot, like I said, from this dungeon with high armor, as well as the weapons are pretty solid in their slots that they have, with a scout, a grenade launcher with some pretty cool perks, an LMG, and a stasis sidearm with Desperado. Once you complete this first encounter, like I said, we're going to work our way up in this little path right here and grab our 6th and final secret message on the panels on the top floor right before we go into our second encounter, which is an actual boss fight where we're going to have to deal damage to a nice Siren, just like in the Garden of Salvation. So when we finally reach that top floor, just turn around and head to the opposite side of the room, jump over right here, and you will see our last 6th blue screen. So once you collect that little blue screen, head back to this side where I am at right here, just to the right of that screen, and there is a lever you can grab. Once you grab that lever, the wall will kind of swing up and you can just jump up around the edge where we reach our second boss that we have to deal with. Like I said, a nice giant Siren, just like in the Garden of Salvation. Super easy encounter to do using the mechanics that we had before inside our first couple encounters inside of the dungeon. So for this one, when we start the encounter, the Siren will start shooting at you, and there will be the Vex like always, with the harpies traveling around this area. Now, just like always, there are 4 nodes in the center of the map that we have, because it's in an X or a cross, if you will, up at the very top of the spire. There will be 4 fuel cells, 1 at the end of each of those catwalks. Those will be what we have to activate via those 4 nodes in the center. So just like our previous encounters, defeat the Vex around and shoot the Minotaur, which will drop that arc buff on the ground called Arc Attrition. Head back to the center of the platform and all of those 4 catwalks coming off of it. You can shoot the 4 nodes at the center to start it, and then start your path following those yellow wires around. They will go down each of the catwalks, with it ending at the fuel cell. Once you shoot that final one at the fuel cell, it'll say that it has been activated, and you will see it actually go down into the spire. Now, once you activate that 4th and final fuel cell, this is where the boss will move to start your damage phase on it. Now, the special thing about this boss is it will, once it starts coming towards you, it'll stop and pause and all of a sudden open up, and it'll have a bunch of different glowing eyes or buttons on its face. You have to, as a fire team, shoot off all of the eyes. No order specific, just make sure you get all of the eyes off of them. You'll know they're done when they explode, and after you shoot off all the eyes, the actual damage process begins. The Siren will start moving back towards the center, so hit it with your grenade launchers, and linear fusion seem to be the play for this, so you can get that weak and clear, and then just keep doing DPS as it keeps floating back towards the center. You can kind of chase it a little bit if you want, but be careful, because after the DPS phase is over, it'll do a little explosion of that arc energy that it was trying to consume from those fuel cells and blow everything back a little bit, so it can blow you off the top of this spire very easily. Now you just rinse and repeat this a couple times until you get its health down. So it's a very simple encounter as well, just using the mechanics that we've learned before by shooting the Minotaur, getting the arc attrition, going to the center, shooting those nodes in a certain order to activate the fuel cells. There's 4 of them on each of the platforms, so there's 1 on each of the 4 catwalks. And just remember, like I said, at the 4th cell that you activate, that's where DPS will start. When DPS starts, the Siren comes up to you guys. You have to shoot all of its eyes out, and then once all of its eyes are shot, you can start your actual damage. That very center of its eye is the crit spot, so just wipe it out quick. It's a pretty easy 2-phase with a clan of 3, like I said, using linears, grenade launchers, stuff like that. It was very easy to 2-phase it. Complete that. grab your loot, and we start moving into the spire. Just gotta make our way down a couple different levels, doing the same mechanic as before, shooting the minotaurs, getting the arc, and connecting the different nodes in the area. Now there is our second chest. Once we reach this floor right here, that drops our extra little bit of loot. After you clear the area and activate the chain of those nodes, under these stairs right here where that arc is going up and you have that center platform, there is a little hidden compartment where you can shoot off the grate, drop down into that tunnel, walk underneath those stairs, and you will find your second secret chest. Pretty hidden and can be very dark under those stairs, so if you get a little lost, just check on that floor with that electric going up in the center. Under one of those stairs, there's a little panel where you can shoot it off, and that's where your secret chest will be. Then, like I said, after you collect that, you just keep heading down into the dungeon a little bit farther, and before you know it, you'll be at the boss room, where we do have a same exact mechanic as before with shooting those nodes. So it's very repetitive, but it is a very good boss encounter. Lots of enemies, so you got to watch out for those supplicants, everything like that we have been dealing with throughout everything so far. Now, there will be 2 rooms before the boss when you're dropping down shooting those nodes. Instead of yellow wires, they will turn into red wires. That just means that there are a certain number of nodes. There are 5 of them in the area that you have to shoot in a certain time limit. It's about 10-ish seconds that you have to shoot all 5 of them to turn on the power for that room instead of a chain. So you just have to shoot all 5 of them, no specific order. A similar mechanic is used in this final boss room as well. So now that we're in the boss room, all the combinations of the mechanics come together. We're dealing with a gigantic wyvern right here, where we have to lead him to some power cells and then end up in the room right here where the rally flag is. So when we start the encounter, there will be 2 gigantic hydras, one on each side of the room. You have to defeat those 2 before the minotaurs will spawn. Once you defeat both of the hydras, the minotaurs will spawn, which you defeat to get that arctrician buff. Now, once you get the arctrician buff in that center room that we started at, there will be 5 red wires, 4 on the pillars and 1 above that center door. You get that arctrician, shoot those 5 nodes, and it'll open up the center doors, which allows us to shoot the nodes that we used before with the yellow wires to follow into the other room and activate 2 fuel cells. Could be 2 on the right, 2 on the left, or 1 on each side. Once we activate that second fuel cell, the boss makes his way into that room to consume the energy of it, and you will see a little message in the left-hand corner saying "Seek safety." When this happens, you have to use your arctrician buff to shoot those 5 red nodes, 1 on each pillar and 1 above the door, before he consumes all of the energy, or else you won't get any of the damage phase. Once you shoot those 5 nodes, the doors will close and protect you from his blast of energy, and once that happens, you're able to do damage on him. Now, it'll keep moving towards you, so it's good if you use something in the back of the room with Wither Horde and rockets. Very, very easy to phase with that with using a well lock. We also did another way with fusion grenade builds with 3 different warlocks, all using Anarchy and Cartesian coordinate with Vorpal. We were also able to easily 2-phase him this way, so it's a very easy boss fight. It is just very hectic in the room with all the enemies attacking you because there are the supplicants that just follow you around and explode. Definitely my most deaths in that encounter came from those supplicants, and the boss does hit very hard. So there's many options to defeating this boss. You can use div and linears if you would like. Well, warlock does seem very clutch for consistency. Like I said, using Wither Horde to get weakened and clear, as well as rockets on top of that for that nice juicy DPS. And then we could do something like we did with 3 fusion grenade warlocks, Anarchy, and then a fusion rifle to back it up for that extra little bit of DPS. But overall, it's a very easy encounter using everything that we have learned before, with defeating those Minotaurs to get Arctrition, shooting the 5 nodes that are red to start the actual encounter. Once that begins, then you have the access to 2 of the nodes inside of your room. They'll start there and work their way following those yellow wires into the far room to those fuel cells. Make sure the boss is close to that room, if not already inside it, when you shoot that second and final node for the second fuel cell. So when it closes those doors, you guys have time to get out and have the Arctrition still to shoot those 5 nodes once again, so it closes those doors and DPS can start. Wipe out that boss easy. Hopefully you get that exotic loot at the end, especially if you collected all 6 of those collectibles via this video. Very easy to get those, and then bomb, boom, bing, Squidward is dead. The big old guy drops down. You have chance at exotic, and like I said, farmable. So this chest drops everything from the raid, all of the armor, all of the weapons. You can do it in under 5 minutes, about 4:30, running through this room and absolutely destroying it. So it's a very easy farm to get through and a very fun dungeon. About 6 out of 10 for me. Nothing too crazy. I have liked others like Duality, Pit, everything like that a little bit more, but not the worst that we have had for sure. So hopefully this helped you guys out. I know it's a little long-winded. Hopefully y'all stuck around, got all of the secret loot with us, as well as the basics for each of these encounters. So thank you guys again for watching. Truly appreciate it. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.